Building AI-powered features is a major headache, even 2 years into the latest generative AI boom. Let's see if I can save you the headache by showing you a way to easily add LLM features to your mobile or web app using Modus. In this video, I'll walk you through how to use the open source Modus Intelligent API framework to add LLM and AI-backed features to your app. Here we're using the example of a blogging platform, but any developer can take advantage of the superpowers of Modus in any app where combining internal data and your LLM is key. With that, let's get started. In this demo, we're going to go from npm install to using Modus to add suggested title and SEO features using internal data from a Postgres database and the open source llama model hosted on Hypermode. Let's get started by installing the Modus CLI. This will allow us to skeleton out a new Modus app. Let's say Modus new. We can choose from Go or assembly script, which is a TypeScript-like language. Let's use assembly script. We'll give it a name. And now the Modus CLI will skeleton out our Modus app and download the latest SDK. Let's go ahead and open this in a text editor. Now there are two important files to take a look at right away. The first is the app manifest, modus.json. Here we define the API endpoints that we want to generate based on the functions we define in our Modus app. We also define the models and data connections that we'll use. So here we have a default GraphQL API. We'll also take a look at this index.ts file where we can see a single say hello function is available in our example. Let's run Modus dev. This will build our Modus project and start a local GraphQL API. Let's switch over to Postman, which will allow us to query the API. We'll inspect the schema, and we can see we have a single say hello field that was generated using the types and signature of the function we defined here. So let's dive right in here. We'll switch over to Modus.json, and let's define a model. So let's define the open source llama model. Now we can connect to model providers like OpenAI or Anthropic using an API key, or we can leverage Hypermode's model hosting functionality. So here we are saying we want this model to be hosted on Hypermode. In order to do that, though, we'll need to sign into Hypermode. So we'll install the Hype CLI, which will allow us to log in to Hypermode. Looks like I'm already signed in. There we go. But if you don't have an account, you'll be prompted to create a free account and sign in with GitHub. Choose an organization. I just have a single organization. Now our app is connected to the Hypermode platform, so we can take advantage of that model in our app. So let's switch back to index.ts. Let's add some imports here. So we're going to import the model interface as well as some helpers for working with OpenAI compatible models. And let's start off by defining a function that is just going to generate text based on a user-defined prompt. So we add this function generate text that is going to take an instruction and a prompt. We're going to fetch the model from the model manifest and pass in some other optional arguments like temperature, which is going to give us an indication of the level of creativity that we want our model to apply, and then return the result of our invocation. So when we save that, we can see that Modus reloads our app. Let's switch back to Postman, refresh the schema. We need to make sure that we export this function. And any function that we export is mapped to a query field. So here we can say the instruction, you are a helpful agent. And we can ask, what is dgraph? Now we're going to leverage this function that we defined to generate not just generic text provided by the user, but we're going to use this function internally to generate our suggested SEO meta tags and title for our blog post. So let's go ahead and write a function that's going to generate our SEO meta tags automatically based on the content of our blog post. So we've defined a new function here, generate SEO. The prompt, you are an SEO expert, create the HTML meta description tag based on the post content. So we save that, switch back to Postman. We have a new generate SEO tag. And let's paste in the content of our blog post. Let's explore how to take advantage of airline points. You can imagine this is a longer blog post about airline points, but this will work for our simple example. And we can see here that we have a HTML description meta tag optimized for SEO. This is really useful so we don't have to write these ourselves in our blogging app. Now that example was just taking advantage of data that we have in the UI of our app, the content of the blog post. One of the big advantages of Modus is being able to connect to internal business data sources as well. So we're going to switch back to the Modus JSON app manifest and define a connection to our Postgres database. So this represents the, say, like internal backend database for our blogging platform. We just need to add the connection credentials. I'm running Postgres locally, so these are just going to be the default connection credentials. This could be running in AWS or any other database service. So now let's add a function to look up our author data from the authors table. So we're going to leverage the author's bio in our app here. So we'll write a new function, get author by name. First, let's export that function and we'll give that a test, and then we'll just use it internally. We define a new author type that matches the data in our authors table. You can see this is fairly simple. We have an ID, name, and bio for our author. Then our function is executing a simple SQL query to search for authors by name. We also need to declare the host, which will match the name of the connection we declared in our Modus app manifest. So let's switch back to Postman, refresh the schema. We have author by name. We can search for authors by name. We may want to use ID or something like that in the real world, but this is a good example. So great, this is me. This is my bio. Let's see how we can use this in our app to tailor the suggested title of a blog post to the style of the author based on this bio. So let's create a new function here called generate title. And this is going to take the post content, the category of the post, and the name of the author. We're going to call our get author by name function. That's going to look up the author bio in our Postgres database. Then we're going to chain that data, that internal business data. We're going to chain that to our LLM, passing in the blog post content, the category, and also the author bio to generate suggested titles for the blog post in the style of the author. So let's refresh our schema in Postman. You can see now we have this generate title field. Let's use the same simple example of taking advantage of airline points. This is going to be a travel blog post. And there's the author. So now Modus fetched data from our internal Postgres database about the author, in this case, the bio, used that to generate suggested title for a blog post based on the author bio and the content of the blog post, which then we could render in our UI to allow the blog author to select the most relevant title for their blog post. We just saw how Modus makes it easy to add LLM-backed features to our app using the abstractions of models, data, and functions. You can try this yourself and learn more about Modus in the Modus Recipes GitHub repo, or tune into Hypermode's Cooking with Modus livestream series, both linked in the description. Comment below with your Modus app ideas, and if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to the AWS Developers YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see what you build with Modus.